Hiya! Welcome! So I'm doing another vinyl tag today, following on from the 2024 vinyl tag, the general vinyl tag that is organised by Mr. Robert Walker every year. This one is a little more niche, and this one is all about the Beatles, as you'll know from the title, etc. This was started by Rachel's Ghost, who needs absolutely no introduction to anyone watching this who is a member of or familiar with the vinyl community on YouTube. Rachel has been around since before I was born, probably, and she does a live show, a live stream every day, and I do mean 7 days a week. Don't know how she does it really. I get burnt out if I do one live show a week for a few weeks in a row. But anyway, Rachel, among other friends of mine in the VC, is a massive Beatles fan, and I'm a big Beatles fan as well. And I thought, with this only being 10 questions, and be able to grab all my Beatles related items that I want to show, I thought that I would jump on this. So thank you to Rachel for running this tag. Get involved if you fancy it. I'll leave a link for Rachel's original tag video at the top of the video description. So go and check that out, and you'll see what Rachel showed. Let's get going with these 10 prompts or questions. And the first one is, what Beatles album do you own the most copies of in any format or combination of formats? Well, the Beatles aren't a group who I tend to buy the same album or the same recording on multiple formats, but I do have certain multiple Beatles albums of the same album. I'm saying album a lot, but no more than 2 of each. I mean, I've got all the Giles Martin remixes, and we'll get onto them later on as well. But what I will show you, I think, is Sgt. Pepper. I'm going to pick this one. I've only got 2 copies of it. The first one is in this lovely Beatles in Mono CD box set. There it is, Mono CD, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and of course I also have it as a 2 CD 50th anniversary Giles Martin remix edition as well. I've shown Sgt. Pepper above some of the other ones that I've got 2 versions of, because it just gives me an excuse to say a little bit of an anecdote as to when I was back at school in the mid-90s, and I was friends with a massive Beatles fan, probably an even bigger fan than me, and he still is today, even though I've not seen him or spoke to him in years. I was really into CD at this point. I'd only just got my first CD player in 1995, and a few months later, my friend, he was wanting to collect some Beatles on vinyl. I was wanting Beatles but on CD. So I ended up swapping him, and I regret it, the Magical Mystery Tour double EP and the Sgt. Pepper original 1967. It was probably a stereo pressing, but I can't remember, complete with the cutouts that weren't cut out. You know, everything was as it should be, you know, near mint condition for an album at that point, nearly 30 years old. I swapped him those, and I got in return Sgt. Pepper on CD, like the 1987 CD reissue it probably would have been back then, and a couple of other bits as well. And I think he really got the better end of the deal, and they weren't even mine. I mean, they were my dad's really, but my dad said I could swap them, as he hadn't been collecting vinyl for many years, and he was about to get into compact disc as well at that point, and it would have been sometime early to mid 1996. So yeah, I did used to sort of have an original 67 Sgt. Pepper on wax, and I gave it away or swapped it, and I think I kind of ripped myself off really. Anyway, moving on to Rachel's second question, and it is, show a Beatles bootleg. Now, I don't actually have a Beatles bootleg album or compilation or anything like that. The nearest I can show, really, and I don't think it really counts, but I'm going to show it anyway, is this unofficial Blu-ray here. This is an Alan G. Parker film. It was 50 years ago today, and it's good, this. It's an unofficial Beatles film, and we know there's loads of them out there. Many of them available to stream on things like Prime Video, certainly. Probably Netflix have had a couple. In fact, I think Netflix had this up for a while, and it might be on Prime as well now. No original music in it. There's quite a lot of original archive footage, you know, interviews and stuff like that. But I've got a lot of Beatles on Blu-ray and DVD. I'll show you something else relating to DVD in a bit. But this is definitely an unofficial thing. You can't really call it a bootleg, because it's a Blu-ray, it's a film, a documentary, but that's as close as I can get to answer question number 2. Number 3 is to show the last Beatles album you bought. I think it'll be the 50th, or it was over 50 by this point, weren't it? The Giles Martin 50th anniversary remix of Revolver. Once again, I go for the 2 CD editions for these, like I have with Sgt. Pepper, and some of the other ones that I've got here that I may or may not be showing in a bit. I do like the expanded box sets of these, but it's just a rabbit hole I don't go down really, just collecting the Beatles expensive super deluxe editions and stuff. So I tend, when it comes to these anniversary remix editions that come out, I tend to go with the 2 CD sets, because I like to have some, if not all, of the outtakes and unreleased stuff that comes on the second disc. So there's Revolver, which album-wise I think is the most recent purchase anyway, if I'm remembering correctly. There is of course a far more recent purchase relating to the Beatles that I've made, but I'll be showing you that for an upcoming prompt. And number 4, show a solo album from your favourite Beatle. I wasn't able to do this. I've got a couple of Wings albums that Rob Walker sent me as VCLT a couple of years ago, but I don't count Wings as a solo thing. It's a band, you know. I know it always gets lumped in with Paul McCartney's solo discography, but I didn't really want to include Wings, although as it turns out I've broken my own rule instantly. Best I can do is show you some of my 7-inch singles from Beatles members that are solo or sort of solo. So instantly I've broken my own rule there, because that is a Wings single rather than a Paul McCartney solo single, but it is Give Ireland Back to the Irish. Used to belong to my Auntie Jill, my mum's sister. It's got her name on it. I do like this. I know it's a bit of a controversial one really, not just in McCartney fandom, but just generally anyway, but I think it's a really good single that, you know, it's almost like a Paul McCartney solo single. And we will get to a McCartney solo single in a moment. Then here's one, there again, I don't know if you can class this as a solo single, more of a spin-off. It's a Plastic Ono band with a nice picture sleeve of Give Peace a Chance and Remember Love on the B-side. I picked that up on Discogs some years back for a good price. Here's one, I'm showing this now, and I probably ought to show it later, but no, I'll show it now anyway. The Hare Krishna Mantra, another Discogs pickup I believe, or eBay possibly, by the Radha Krishna Temple of London. George Harrison, I'm assuming, played on this. He would have produced it, I'm almost certain. I'm not going to get it out of his sleeve and try and check on the label or anything. It's got a load of writing from whoever owned it originally on the back, but that doesn't bother me. Very nice picture sleeve, apart from the writing. It's in good condition, this. I do like the Hare Krishna Mantra as well. Very repetitive, but that's kind of the point of it. But I think Harrison played on it. It's not a solo single by any stretch, and he's not even credited, at least publicly, on the sleeve, but I'm going to show it anyway because it's Beatles related to me. Penultimate one of my very favourites and a true solo single from a Beatle, was Ringo Starr's It Don't Come Easy. Should have been a number 1 this in 1971 when it came out. It is still, I think, one of the best solo records, solo singles by any member of the Beatles. Maybe even the best. I might be forgetting 1 or 2 really good ones. I know people are going to be saying, oh, what about Imagine by John Lennon? To be honest, I think Imagine's overplayed and overrated. It's not bad, but I've had enough of it, you know. But there we go, It Don't Come Easy by Ringo. And last one I'll show you, this one, another Marmite one and another McCartney that's Marmite. It's Paul McCartney in the Frog Chorus, We All Stand Together, from the animated featurette Rupert Bear and the Frog Song. I've loved this since I was a kid, and I just always wanted to get this back into my collection, and I did a few years ago. I think this was from Atlas Records. Very cheap, nice condition, picture sleeve as always, as it was in the 1980s and pretty much everything came out on picture sleeve. Produced by George Martin. I think you can class this as a McCartney solo single, as I don't think the Frog Chorus were a real band. There we go, we all stand together. On to question number 5. Show a non-USA or non-UK Beatles album. So I suppose for this, if like you're in North America, to show a Beatles album that was pressed and or released outside of the US or Canada, and then vice versa if you're in the UK or Europe or wherever, to show one that wasn't pressed or released in your country. Well, I've got both of these here. One is a UK version, but I'm just showing both of them because the other one's the US version, just to see if there's any noticeable differences between the two. But it's the Beatles Red and Blue editions. These would have been the ones from around 2009. And the Red Album one that I've got, 1962 to 66, this one is the American pressing. I think I picked this up on Discogs. Don't think it was an American seller, but I'd done a search and this came up. I didn't really care that it was an American version rather than the UK or European edition. It's got the FBI anti-piracy warning on the back, which obviously the UK version won't have. Just a quick look at the inside of the CD there. I'm happy enough with these red and blue versions that I've got, and here's the blue version, by the way. This one, as you might be able to tell if you compare it, is the European version. It's not got FBI logo on or things like that. I'm happy with the 2009 CDs. I know these got re-released for the 50th anniversary alongside Now and Then recently, but I've not really been in any rush to upgrade my editions or duplicate them, really. Mainly showing you that one because it's a non-UK or non-European version, but I thought I'd show them you both at the same time anyway. Prompt number 6 is show a Beatles single or EP. So I've been really lazy here. I did get out my 7-inch Beatles box set and then I put it back because I thought, now I'll just show this here, my most recent Beatles purchase. Of course, it's Now and Then, the brand new single. I showed this on Records Roundup late last year, so I'm not going to bang on about it. Technically a double A side with Love Me Do. This one is the blue and white marble vinyl edition that was, I think, a Beatles store exclusive, and it came out in many different formats as well. Everyone and his dog has heard this by now. Now and Then. Number 7, show an album that features a Beatles cover song. I'm pretty sure I've got quite a few, not loads, but a fair few to choose from. But the one that sprung to mind for me was Permanent Vacation by Aerosmith, because this one, the penultimate track on side 2, is I'm Down, which was a Lennon and McCartney piece. And I was racking my brains for ages trying to think, what album was I'm Down on? And I had to go to Wikipedia to remind myself, and it turns out it was actually a double A-side single with Help in America, but as far as I could tell, I'm Down was never on a studio album, and I didn't think it was. I don't remember hearing it on, say, anything around 1964, 65, you know, like Help, Rubber Soul, etc. So, yeah, Aerosmith, Permanent Vacation, great album, by the way, with I'm Down, their cover of the Beatles' 1965 number. Show an album where one of the Beatles guest starred on it. I was struggling with this. I almost thought I wouldn't be able to answer this, and then there again, probably a bit of a cheat, but you know, these vinyl tags, you know, they're not set in stone regarding the rules. If you can't answer stuff, then you can't answer it, or if you've got to kind of deviate, which I am here, once again, then it doesn't matter really. I'm going to show a mini disc, and it's a compilation, and it's the best of Bond, James Bond 007. And the text is very small, even my glasses on, but it is track number 7 that we want, because of course that's Live and Let Die from the film Live and Let Die. Great Bond film, by the way. I'm a big Bond fan, and I really need to re-watch all the Bond films this year, from of course Paul McCartney and Wings. That's my answer for that one, which, you know, it's not really any Beatle guesting on anything. I nearly showed the Radha Krishna Temple single again for this, but A, it's a single, and B, as I'm sat here, I'm not 100% certain George Harrison played on that. I think he produced it. There again, please correct me if I'm wrong. Number 9 is a non-album Beatles related item. So, for example, it could be a book. I do have some books, but I'm not going to show them. A ticket. So, would that be a concert ticket, maybe? A pillow. I do have little bits of Beatles merch knocking around. I didn't want to show anything that was a bit kind of naff and cheesy, though. I wanted to show something decent. So, I showed the unofficial Blu-ray documentary. It was 50 years ago earlier. I'm going to show you an official documentary now. Official series. Still my favourite. And it's the Beatles anthology on DVD. I did re-watch this again a bit before Christmas, actually. I've seen this no end of times. I love it. I love it so much. I picked this up on eBay many years ago when I was deciding I was going to start collecting the Beatles on CD, and got the anthology albums on compact disc. And I remembered how much I loved the series when it was on ITV back in 1995. That's really what got me into the Beatles originally, was this series being on TV and my dad taping it for us every week. If you can find this on DVD, I mean, it is available on VHS as well, if any of you still play stuff on videotape. But if you can find that on DVD, then it's a big recommendation from me. I do love the anthology documentary series. Number 10, technically it's the penultimate question, because there's a bonus question that's classed as number 11. But number 10, show us your favourite Giles Martin Beatles remix. Well, I've picked them all up here, and I've shown you a couple already. I've already shown you Revolver and Sgt. Pepper. The other ones, of course, are the Beatles, aka the White Album. This is the 2-disc edition again. Actually, is it 3 discs this? I think it's 3. Yes, 3-disc edition with the Isha demos on disc 3. Abbey Road 2 CD 50th edition, and Let It Be 2 CD 50th or a bit over 50th edition. My favourite out of all these, although it's not my favourite Beatles album, I'm going to pick, simply because of the wealth of material, and I do like the Isha demos, I'm going to pick the White Album, or the Beatles really, for this. If I was going by just my favourite Beatles album generally, I probably would have gone with Abbey Road really. And I do like the outtakes and bonus stuff on the second disc here. But this was a bit of a revelation really. And I never fully appreciated the White Album. I'd heard it before, I'd got it, you know. I just like the Isha demos and the mixes. I do rate Giles Martin. I'm not one who gets hung up on how different things sound compared to previous releases and mixers and productions. They sound good to me. They don't sound particularly different from what I've heard previously, so that's all I care about. I do like the mono stuff actually. I think the way mono sounds when it's back into a stereo system, I think that suits the Beatles really well. So yeah, that's what I'm going to pick for question number 10, the favourite Giles Martin remix. So number 11, I think it's like a bonus thing, and it's shout out a Beatles channel I'd like you to watch. Well, I haven't really got one, so I'm not going to answer it, but that was, I think, more of a bonus question than anything anyway. I can think of certain people who I watch who are Beatles fans, but they're not Beatles specific, and they do stuff on YouTube that isn't just pertaining to the Fab Four. And I didn't shout anyone out when Rob wanted me to in his general vinyl tag, so just to be consistent, and because I'm not big on kind of backslapping and things. I know it's nice to recommend people, but you know, if this goes in a playlist that Rachel makes and my other vinyl tag goes in Rob Walker's playlist, then just looking down a playlist is a big enough recommendation for me personally. But there we are, that is the Beatles vinyl tag for 2024. Thank you again, Rachel's Ghost, for running this. Don't know how many other people are going to be doing it. Mine will be coming out a bit after the fact, but better late than never. I want to say special thanks to all of my wonderful subscribers and generous patrons. Don't forget to see Rachel's Ghosts original vinyl tag video linked at the top of the description. I'm going to go now. Might as well listen to some Beatles, ain't I, now that I've got all this stuff out. What should I listen to for some of this I've not heard in quite a while? The mono box set, there's so much to get through there that's really high quality, so I'll probably have a dive into this again at some point later on this year. And I do hope that all of you will join me again next time for my next vinyl tag Beatles related video. Hopefully I'll do another one whenever there's something Beatle-y to talk about for me, and my next music collecting video. Cheers everyone. See ya!